Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Hopefully I'm coming in loud and clear. We have Master Sergeant Brian Buckwalter, who is coming aboard here in a second, I think. He's texting with me. Oh, are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
So absolutely, I can. So everybody, this is Master Sergeant Brian Buckwalter. If you hadn't seen him in the last presentation they did during the conference, basically he went over some stuff, but a lot of you guys reached out to me saying that basically you haven't had any sort of training whatsoever. So that got me thinking we need to do some training. So that's why we're here today. And Master Sergeant's going to go through everything that we think you guys need to know. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
All right, awesome. Well, hey, ladies and gentlemen, just thank you so much for jumping on this. It seems like we've got a really good turnout today. So I'm going to hopefully make this as engaging as possible. Full disclosure, there's definitely some moments that are more detail oriented. But that being said, I hope to make this as interesting as possible, give you some of the tips and tricks that you'll need in order to use DVIDS effectively, at least at a basic level. All that to say, DVIDS does a lot. If you were at the training a couple weeks ago or last week, I gave a really quick overview, and today we're going to go into kind of some of the modules and the aspects of DVIDS, just to give you a pretty good working knowledge. I think you would be able to take this training today and do some of the basic functions within DVIDS. That being said, you know, it's going to be on you guys. Like, would love to come back and train you more in depth on certain aspects. Maybe there's something that piques your interest and you want to know more about it. I do that all the time. That's part of my role here at DVIDS as a trainer, is that I can go in depth to meet specific needs and questions that you may have about the platform. So just to kind of set the stage today, we're going to take this pretty basic. I'm sure some of you have some knowledge of DVIDS, and others, this may be the first time you're really seeing the platform. I'm going to go through the idea of basically getting a piece of content, and we're going to follow the content workflow. DVIDS is, as you saw in the brief, is a full cycle content management platform. So that means everything from the moment that you upload it to our system, we're going to manage it through the process of being able to make sure that it has the proper information associated with it, like on its metadata, on the visual information metadata. Then we're going to be able to market it, to push it out to your audiences, whether it's through the platform or through media engagement. And then you're going to be able to track that engagement, see where it's going, who's looking at your stuff. And then finally, you're going to be able to do that final accessioning point where there's that consideration for the National Archives, NARA, and just that end of that life cycle. So that's sort of the workflow. We'll go through some tips and tricks and how to use the platform. If at any point in time, once I start sharing my screen, I don't believe I'm going to be able to see any chat. So please stop me. Feel free to chime in, or if somebody can monitor the chat, you know, Mike, if you're able to just keep an eye on things, and if there's a question that's relevant to the conversation or just that comes up, please stop me, and we'll go through this, because I'm going to go through it fairly quickly. And hopefully the system works 100%. But at the end too, I will be sure to leave enough time to answer any specific questions you may have. And then I'll obviously, you guys have my contact information, so any follow-on classes, we'll go from there. So give me 1 second here. I will get my screen up, and then we'll start. So Mike, it looks like screen share is disabled for participants. I don't know if that's something you're able to undo.
Stand by, sir.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try it now.
All right. So hopefully this is, let's see, screen recording. All right, this is giving me, I apologize about that. This is also our homeschool computer. So I'm gonna have to jump out and jump right back into the conversation, if that's all right with you.
Roger that.
All right, hold on, I'll be right back.
I guess this is where the point that we play the elevator music, maybe for a second.
All right, hey, can you see that?
Here we go.
Can you see my
Yes,
screen?
sir.
All right, awesome.
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay, so it looks like it's working then. All right. So you should see the main page at DVIDS. I've already logged in. I have a two-step authentication. If you're not logged in, you would see a login button right up on top here. And then once you are logged in, you will have the entire platform. You'll get some new options that come across your screen, including admin, DVIDS direct, and request support right up in that top left-hand corner of the screen. We're going to go through each of these, and we're also going to talk about the overall platform. All of this is assuming that you are all one, that you have DVIDS accounts and that you are members of a unit. Those are two different steps. If you have a DVIDS account, you've registered with your .mil, you can go and request to join a unit. So if you wanted to join Communication Directorate, Headquarters Marine Corps, you would just go in here, you would start typing in the name of your unit, and then you would agree that you are somebody that's allowed to do that, and then you would submit the request. And the admin of your unit will then go in, see you, and then join you to that unit. So that is the second step in the process. If there's people that do need accounts, we can go through account creation at the end if need be. But this is assuming that you have been joined to an account and that you have submission privileges. So that means you are allowed to upload content to our platform. That's handled through your administrators. Taking a look at just the main page right now, there's a few things that you'll see that are interesting. We have some different types of ways to find content and reach out to us across the top. We'll touch on some of those in a little bit. You'll see that we have different hyperlinks to the different branches of service. This is going to be the top news that the service designated agencies are curating for you. So the Air Force is going in and curating some of the latest content that they have, and then highlighting that. This is all service-based. We're just hosting that platform. Upcoming live webcasts and live now. These are two ways that you can know what's going on through our live TOC support. You can, even with government platforms, you can click on these and you can watch what is happening live without having to log into Facebook or YouTube or any other streaming platforms. This will allow you on a government network to view that content. So ways that we have seen this effective for, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, but as different offices and public affairs professionals, you can use this for commanders calls. There's ways to make these private, not necessarily hidden, but they are private so that you can send links out to people and they would be able to come on to a government network and watch like a commander's call or a town hall or something along that way. So basically, it's just a live streaming service that we provide for you if you have the correct equipment. This is probably the heart and soul of the front end of the website is our DVIDS search. As of last week, as of middle of the week last week, we now do exact phrase searching. So that means that you can use quotation marks around your content. And we also have some basic Boolean searches that you can do. So tank and aircraft should now pull back things that are dealing with tanks and aircraft or fuel tanks, mid-air refueling, tankers, that kind of thing. So before, if I did tank aircraft, I would get both tanks and aircraft. So we're working on making this a little bit more accessible, a little bit easier. There's still some tweaks, but I have found that searching within DVIDS now for exact phrases is coming along really well, probably better than we've done since we started in 2007. So that's a pretty exciting thing for coming from my perspective. That the search is actually working pretty well right now. That being said, I do want to kind of transition more into the back end. Please play around with this. If we're going to touch over how you control and how you populate some of these different areas, but that's just a way to help people find content. I'm going to touch on request support first. This is a module. Basically, anytime that you need our help, whether it's training, whether it's providing support for live streams, whether you just have a question, this is usually where we ask you to go, is to request support from us. This is our work database, our work request database. This is how we track and approve events. This is how we spend money if we need to. And this really just gets the entire contract team that we have on our end moving. We respond to this, and this is how we do support. We ask at least 48 hours for routine stuff. We can do day of, we can do hour of, we can do emergencies. But we are, this week alone, we have 57 live events just right coming through our TOC. So the more heads up you can give us, always preferred, always better. But typically 48 hours is good, but we'll work with you as needed. If you have a request, you would just go through and you would see that there's a lot of asterisks here that provides the information that we need. Make sure that you select all times in Eastern. We work off of Eastern Standard Time, so anything that you need, just if you can, please convert the time for us. That would be helpful. So we're going to put in test event and then service unit. This would be like if I'm attached to communication director. You see, as I start typing, you'll get the all of the different options there. So I can go through and I can put the service unit in and select it as needed. Unit POC, this would be me. There's a drop down of all the people in the unit. And then you can just United States, if you want to put your state in there, that's helpful, especially if there's a time mistake. Then we can possibly figure out what's going on based off the state you're in. Give us the 5 Ws. Basically you're telling us what's going on. Once you hit submit, this is all going to append into the mission details and requirements. Down here, there's a few things that I really, really want. Helping us go through more of a narrative of the 5 Ws is helpful. So requesting live stream support, please don't worry about the the different devices and anything right now, but Streambox encoder, this is just one piece of equipment that we can use to get video. There's many other ways we can help, or I need advice on what to use, what equipment to use. So you would put that in there. You would put a good day of POC, cell phone and email preferred. So up here, when I hit save, it's going to give me my work email. It's going to give me then my work phone number, but sometimes that's not necessarily, you can see right here, it's going to come right there. If you're doing live events, things like that, that you need to be in contact with our organization, give me the best way to get in touch, the realistic way of getting in touch with you. Once we click submit, what's going to happen, and this is probably not going to work just because the event's already passed. So we'll try to do something like 5 p.m. and then we'll have this done at 6 p.m. So what we'll do is we'll hit submit, and then this is going to come into us on the back end. You will not see this page. You'll see a thank you for submitting. You should see test event added. We come back in here. You are going to be seeing during this training some additional modules and controls that you don't have access to, but that's just because of my my permission set and training set. So, but just know that once it comes in, and if you submit it from the front end where I showed you on the main part of DVIDS, you'll see that it comes up as a pending request with a red dot alerting us that we have to take action on this particular event. So I can go in and then we can assign it to the right people we can delete it, or we won't delete it for you guys. I'll delete it for myself, but we'll do that for you. But as you can see, this is just coming up in the next month or so, and this doesn't even handle all of the DoD requests. So that's the basics of request support. You'll probably basically, if you have any questions that requires any more level of just giving a quick call, request support should be the I need help button. Obviously, you'll have my contact information, but at some point in the conversation, it may be like, hey, go ahead and submit the event support request, and we'll get you taken care of. You access it again from here. There's another back end way of going in. If you do that, it's more than likely going to get lost in the shuffle based off of how we look for and sort through request support. So quick pause right there to just see if anybody has any questions. Okay, moving on then. We'll come back to admin in a bit. The next thing that you're going to do is, okay, so request support. Obviously, that's for live webcasts, helping you get a live webcast on the air. That's one way that we use that. So that's one way to get content into DVIDS, is by hosting a live webcast. Once that live webcast is ended, we convert it into a downloadable video for you. We do all of that. We'll talk a little bit more about the other benefits in a bit. But the other way you can get content to us is through DVIDS Direct. Again, right from the front page right there. If you have any other uploads going on that you've never closed out or finished, you'll see them right here. But we're going to base it off the assumption that you are coming here, you just got back from a shoot, and you need to get your content onto DVIDS. So we're going to go ahead and click New Batch, and we're going to come into this portal. A few things that you'll see here is just a lot of different screens giving you a lot of different information. Bottom line is that this is helping you with some basic SOPs and submission guidelines in case you run into issues. DoD captioning style guide. It's helping you understand what kind of content's required for a sessioning. It's a lot more of this is probably what DINFOS covers. This is kind of more your day in and day out, but there's some friendly reminders in here. DVIDS Direct SOP. If you forget any part of this, you can just click here and you can get a little bit of help for what's going through here. This particular platform for web upload, you can upload JPEGs, you can upload, so images, you can upload videos, all based off of the formats that you see right over here on this side, audio files, and then you can add news stories in here as well. So once you upload a file, it's going to have you review, and we'll touch on that real quick. If you have a graphic, it's a little bit more complicated. You do go over to the graphics portal, and what you're going to see over on the graphics portal is an SOP. This is if you're doing your Adobe Illustrator files, InDesign files, PDFs, things along those lines. We do have a way to handle that. It's a little bit different of a workflow at this point in time. And it's honestly, at this point, it's a little beyond the scope of the conversation today. When you go and click an upload file, you'll get your content right up here. Star Wars Galaxy Edge, we'll choose that for upload. It's going to come into the platform here. If you haven't been to Galaxy's Edge, highly recommend it. It's very cool. Once I get that content up there, now this is on our platform. So one thing, I'm not going to finish this upload just because this is not official DoD VI. I will say though, anything that you do upload to us is that the content must be in the public domain, so it can't be copyrighted, and it must be released at the source. If you take nothing else away from today besides my contact information, take away this. We cannot handle CUI. We cannot handle classified material of any kind. This is considered released prior to you coming here. As soon as you click upload a file, you are dealing with an unclassified platform. So that's something really to pay attention to and be aware of. If you accidentally upload something that's controlled, you need to reach out to us immediately and then sound the alarm. So when we go in here, you can append all of this stuff. This is the metadata. This is the content that is behind. This is behind the photo. Obviously, we're not going to go too far into exactly what that is. I mean, the style guide and then just the stuff we learned at DINFOS goes over that. I will say that you have a metadata cross-reference guide here on the left-hand side of the page that shows you how to use Bridge and other software to pre-fill out all of this content. So if you have the headline within your photo editing software already filled out, all of this will be populated, and it's more of a courtesy check at this point with just a couple things. But what we're doing is we're going through, and this is, say we have like a Word document we can copy and paste. Why we do this is because we need to have minimum metadata in order for it to be sessionable, meaning that we are meeting the requirements for it going to the National Archives and things like that. So we are giving you that option to go ahead and put all of that content in here. So like if I took this photo today, I could generate my VRIN. You may already have that VRIN designated, but you're going through and putting that basic info in. Don't worry about so much unless you understand it, but it's beyond the scope of this class is the theme. Themes and messages is really convoluted, and there's an easier way of tracking data and tracking content around one idea, and I'll show that later. So you can kind of ignore theme, and that's about it. I believe caption writer is not a required one. This will actually say, if I try to save this, it'll tell me exactly what's required. So the headline, the caption, tags, country, unit, date taken, credit, and VRIN are the ones that are required. Everything else is optional, and the more content and the more detail you can put, the easier this is going to be for people in the future to find your content. When we were showing you at the beginning of the training, the search bar and how we search for content, we are using these metadata tags and all of this content in here to find that and retrieve that piece of visual information. Our system does not analyze the actual photo itself for identifying what's in it. There's technology that's emerging that can do that. We can't. So basically, we're relying on you as the uploaders to be really detailed and very specific about your captions. This is that big pitch for not making generic captions for one event. Make sure that it spells out what's going on. If you can identify people in the photo, all the better. The more detail you can put here and the more complete that caption information is, the easier it will be to search and retrieve that later. Tags are another way you can do this. We look at tags. Tags are just ways, like you can say, if there is an F-16 in the content, you can do that. You can add things in there, separating them by comma, and you'll be good to go. The other thing that we have not forced yet, but is coming soon, these do exist now. When I mentioned like F-16, for example, controlled vocabulary is a standard way that the DoD and Defense Media Activity has identified as the way that they would like content to be labeled. So if you have an F-16 in a photo, tags don't tell you what you can and can't do. You can do F-16, you can do F-6. There's a lot of different ways, even hashtag F-16. So when I go and search, our system is looking for exact phrase matching for these pieces of content. And what winds up happening is if one person does it one way and another person does it another way, more than likely you're going to miss what that piece of content actually is. So when you go into controlled vocabulary, I start typing what I think I know it is, and then what it'll ultimately do is, if it'll come up again, if you saw it before, it was starting to come up with all of the different iterations of how an F-16 would be labeled. And I just messed it up a little bit there. So here it is, or KC-130. So fixed wing aircraft mechanic. So you can start seeing that you can add in different types of different controlled vocabulary keywords and then append them that way.
Just jump in real quick.
Yep.
Had a couple of questions.
Sure.
DVIDS Direct 2.0 has never worked for me. I feel I've tried on both Chrome and Safari.
Mm-hmm.
That was from Christopher Parr at the 932nd.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
Okay, yeah, thoughts on that? Yeah, I would use DVIDS Direct 1.0, this one right here. It's a beta version. Honestly, I think we just actually, when we came into Direct today, might have been because I saved my preferences. I'm advocating that they pull that. Right now, we tried it. We tried drag and drop uploading, and no, we're having a hard time getting it to work. And that was what the beta was for, to basically prove that it's not working. Hopefully you will see that not as an option coming up here pretty soon. I know it's a little bit more tedious to upload multiple files by clicking this each time, but we're moving on to, we've been in the process for the last few months of moving all of our content to the cloud. We have a contract and we're about 90% done. We anticipate being completely, fully moved. All of our physical data and physical drives are going to be offloaded to Amazon Web Solutions, Amazon Web Services by the end of, or by mid-June. That being said, we're using some virtual ways to upload content and handle this entire process. So I think, if I'm just being candid here, I think that the intent of the development team right now is to scrap 2.0 and just move on to 3.0. In the meantime, we have never taken this down because, as ugly as it is, by design, it's simple. It works on low latency systems, when you have slow internet connections, and this is about the fastest you're going to get right now. So come back to this, use DVIDS Direct 1.0, make sure you're reviewing content and then putting it up. So I know it may not be the answer you wanted to hear, but that's the best way to get it going. Was there another question, Mike, or was that the only direct question so far?
Christian Carter asked if you would talk a little bit about DVIDS Direct 2.0, but I'm pretty sure you covered that.
Yep.
So I think we're pretty good to go.
All right, sounds
Carry
good.
on, sir.
Yep. So don't use it. Add news story. Okay, so we uploaded a file. We uploaded our JPEG. Now, if you're uploading a news article, basically it's a very similar. It's a very similar form. You can copy and paste from a Word document, things like that. You put your headline in there, your story summary, which would be how your content will appear in search. So it doesn't have to be the lead. It can be, this is a story about X, Y, and Z. You can put basically whatever you want in here. Then you put the full story text in here. So you would just copy and paste. You go back through and you might have to format a little bit with enters and things like that. You're not going to get a super fancy text editor. It's just going to be hard returns. You're not going to have italics or things like that. Again, tags, controlled vocabulary keyword, whether or not it's a press release, the date, and it's pretty much the same thing. The one thing that's a little bit different is down here is that you can attach content that is within the batch. So we went to DVIDS Direct and we opened up basically a new batch, which is a new upload session. And anything else that we put in there that we want to associate with the story, we're assuming that the story that you're uploading might go along with some of the photos. I can go ahead and attach this photo to this news story so that when I go on and see it within DVIDS, I'm going to see an image as well. I will show a little bit later when we get into unit media control that you don't have to do this right now, and you don't have to use a photo that you uploaded with that batch and attach that to a news story. It's just a convenience tool at this part.
Master Sergeant?
Yes.
Got a quick question from the 914th folks up in Niagara.
Dropped out. You there?
Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can you?
Yeah,
you're
breaking up. You're breaking up a bit.
Can you hear me now?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Better? Anything?
Yep.
Okay. Can you explain how to add a story after you added a photo that was approved?
Sure. So basically, we uploaded the photos or videos or what have you. Right here, there's a button that says Add News Story. You go ahead and click it, and that'll bring up the fields that you can fill out. And it's a simple copy and paste at this point. Obviously, if you really wanted to write your story in here, I guess you could. but I would just copy and paste from whatever processing program you use, Word or Google Docs or what have you. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Excellent. So yeah, so that's it. We'll talk again when we get, there's a little bit more detail, but that's the basics of this. This will get you 99% of the way there. And then we'll go ahead and, well, it's not gonna let me delete it. Okay. That's fine now. I'm not gonna finish it. By the way, when you're done uploading and everything says, you'll see the status go from red to green. You'll see a little green check mark. And then this blue button right here that says finish, you will be able to click it and you will be able to close the batch. That would be step one of troubleshooting. If this doesn't work, what do you do? Step one, make sure that you've reviewed all the content. This will not let you go forward until this is green. And it'll say, even when I hover over this, I don't know if you see the pop-up, it says that it requires metadata. Meaning there's still things I need to do and form parts I need to fill out in order for you to move on to the next step. We are kind of holding you back. So then clicking finish would hopefully send that to us. Other troubleshooting, we have the ability to check, we have the ability on the back end to check for you if there's any issues that you may be running into. It's always a good idea to write this number down, maybe on a scrap piece of paper or just in your, like on a notepad on the computer screen, you know, sticky notes on PCs, what have you, just in case. This is going to allow us to do a little bit more research because this is a unique number to this particular session. Sometimes scripts get hung up, internet happens, and we can go in and we can see your content, but for some reason we might have to coax it along into the next phase of approval. So if you write this down and then reach out to, I'm going to give you a web, see if I can put it in there, but it's into the chat, but it's essentially going to be video@dividshub.net. If I could put that into the chat, I don't know how I can see if I can do video. It's not going to work very well. Video@dividshub.net. There we go. This, it's in your chat right there. This is the, goodness gracious, this thing's not letting me stop drawing now. All right. That is the email address that's monitored from 07 to 1800 Eastern daily. If you run into any issues with your uploads and things like that, they'll help fix that for you. All right. Pause there. I think, is there any other questions regarding that? It doesn't look like there's any in the chat. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on to the next thing. So basically what we're going to move on to is, now that I've uploaded my content, where does it go and how can I manage my content? So DVIDS gives you unit media control right down here. You're not going to have nearly this many features on the left-hand side of your page, but you're going to go and you'll see unit media control. If you're a member of a unit, like we talked about before, you're going to have the ability to come in here and manage content at this point in time. There's a few different things that we have from here. The back end of the site has a lot of the functionality of the front end of the site. It's just, this is more the content management system, CMS. This is more for, you know, public affairs and combat camera professionals like we all are, to be able to manage workflow. You have a search bar that works very much the same way as the front end. You can search content throughout the entire DVIDS platform on the back end. Basically, all of the results that you see down here below, all these is essentially a search result. That's all this is. We can see when I came here to my unit media control, I am attached to Headquarters Marine Corps. That's who I'm with. That's my unit. So you're going to see your unit right here because that's who you're assigned to. It's going to automatically assume that when it's going to start building in this filter. Our system assumes images as the thing that you're probably going to be dealing with the most. You can't change this. This is just how our system defaults. It's going to come and it's going to show you your unit's images, and that's it. You're going to be like, well, I just uploaded a news story. Where is it? Well, it's here. It's just we're not filtering that filter at this moment. You can see right here that I have two filters. I have an image filter and I have a unit filter as a search result, and that's what's displaying down here. So if I want to switch and I want to see what's going on with news, I can just, there's a couple ways. I can click news right here. Wait for that to load. These are my news articles. Notice I do have some thumbnails for content that has a thumbnail attached with it, but you can see that this is the type and ID is a news product. And then you can see right up here, the filter changed to news. So, and then you can go back and forth, video, graphics, publications, audio, etc. Now, if I want to see everything, the easiest way to do that, if I want to see everything within Headquarters Marine Corps, is go ahead and click the X on news, and it's going to reload this page and it's going to show me everything. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out. The next thing that I wanted to point out is this little plus sign up in the right-hand corner over here. I can add other filters. So on this pop-up, I can filter by different types. I can say, well, I want to see the images from all branches. I want to see it from my specific unit. And then I want to sort it by the date that it was published. Published date is obviously the date that it was uploaded to DVIDS. Created is the date that it was shot. Sometimes they're the same, sometimes they're different. If I shot something back in November that I published today, those two dates would be vastly different. So I want to see the most recent images that we've published. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And now it's going to come back and it's going to show me. I'll be honest, Headquarters Marine Corps is not very busy creating content. This is not their primary role. So the last thing they did was it was a little over a week ago or so. So that's what we're looking at. I'm going to pause right there. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. And now that I've kind of showed like how the functionality goes, I'm going to shift into more of how the workflow goes through and then how to make changes. So those are the next two steps. The last thing I will say is that this gives you the ability to look at content from everywhere. It does not matter what unit you are joined to. I can see all content from everyone, everywhere, and so can you. This is a way just to, one of the benefits for this, and we'll show this in a minute, is tagging content. I can tag content that does not belong to me. And that will become more obvious a little bit here as to why that would even matter. But you can see now that I took out, I added a branch level filter. I am now getting results through the entire Marine Corps. Obviously, I could come back in here and I can change it to the Air Force, the Army, what have you. And I'm going to constantly be fed new information. Again, supports Boolean searches and things like that. So if you're looking for something and you want to work off the back end, this is the place that you do it. And I just bogged down the system because the Air Force produces a lot of content. So we're gonna have to wait now until that comes up. While we are, any questions so far? All right, it's loading.
No questions in chat.
Yeah. Okay, and full disclosure, I was messing with my internet settings yesterday, so that's probably a lovely reason why this is doing it too. Get a whole gig coming into this house and I still somehow get interference. So we're just gonna stop that. Okay, all right, we're back. All right, so the next thing I wanna talk about is that the content that we've been looking at inside Unit Media Control right now has been defaulted to published. If you look up here in the up here, you'll see that the published button is grayed out, but we also have needs approval and archived. Don't worry about flagged. Don't worry about batches at this point. We're only going to deal with these three, and 99% of what you do is going to deal with these 3 pieces of content. Needs approval is for people with admin privileges and people that have established a workflow. This is a unit specific thing that says before content goes live on the site, we want to take one last look. Now, when I mentioned at the beginning of the training, when we were talking about direct, I said that content absolutely must be released at the source, meaning you've already gone through the public affairs checks and balances and said this is content that is going to be released. Just because it's under needs approval does not mean that it's not released. It just means it's not published. And there's a huge distinction with that. I won't go through that and overstate that, but just understand that as soon as it comes onto our platform, there are ways that I can see this and that you can see this without even being logged into the system. I'll show you that in a second. But essentially, the reason why we do this is like, if I wanted to change something like, say, the title before it went over, I want to take one last look at this piece of content, I can before it's visible to the public. Archived basically means that it's released. I just don't want it visible to the public, but it has all the full complete metadata. Archived is very similar to needs approval. It's just the last step along the line. Archived content will be considered for National Archives. I don't make the determination of what gets included into that. That's your consolidated accessioning representative for your branch. I think the Air Force, I think that's at Air Force Public Affairs. I don't know who is your cap, but they're the ones that are going through reviewing content, making sure it's complete and accurate before pushing it to the National Archives. They can see that in the archived. The reason we also have an archive, we don't delete content off of DVIDs, because once it's here, it's a part of the public record, it's a part of the permanent record of the DoD. So we need to maintain that. If we were allowed to have things deleted, that would be some ethical considerations that we would have to address for that. So archive gives us the ability to meet the accessioning guidelines the DoD says that we have to, while also saying, well, we don't want to clutter the site. If you have spent any amount of time on DVIDs, you know that there is just absolutely a ton of content that comes in here. If I do a blank search and I pull back stuff, you're going to see just so much stuff. Some of it's great, some of it's not. But you can see, like, for example, and I'm not going to necessarily call out the specific person, but this is actually a great example of why we have archiving. All of these photos, these 5 photos right here, are all very similar. One photo would probably tell the same story as all 5 of these. I'm drawing that assumption. Archive allows us to upload all 5 to meet the requirements of accessioning, while I could archive 4 of them, and then publish 1. So that means only one of these is visible to the public, but because everything's a permanent record that in accordance with policy, these have all been identified as permanent and not temporary records, they have to come to our platform. Again, I don't want to clutter it, so I will upload all 5, pick the best one, and then archive the rest. The way I do that is basically I can come into here to needs approval. I have all 5 of my photos here. I'm going to say, well, these 2 photos I'm going to archive, and then they won't see the light of day. I can also say, I just want to publish this one, and that means that it'll be publicly viewable on the website. That's what I can do from needs approval. I don't have to go from published and then pull things off of the public view. It's just a little bit, cleaner of a process. 9/14, you had a question. Can you explain the question a little bit? Did that cover it, or?
Yeah, just the beginning part. Sorry, I got interrupted just as you started talking about the archived portion, and I kind of missed that.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind just quickly going over that again.
Sure. Published is where you're going to come into. That's the content that you can see on the front end of the site. This is all published. Everybody, whether you're logged in or logged out of DVIDs, you can see this. it's what is visible to everyone else. Needs approval is
Yeah,
it's
that part I got. It's the
Yep.
archive portion.
Yep. And then archived is basically taking it off the site, off of the public view of the site, but it's holding it for sessioning purposes, for it to be considered for National Archives. Nothing, we can't delete. So the best we can do for you is archive. It's no longer needed.
So once we publish it, that doesn't go to the archives. That's a total separate function.
No, published content, it can go to the archives too. Archived content, you can see like right here on this screen, you have 3 very similar videos that have all been released, but maybe for one reason or another, they made some alterations, but they're still considered permanent records. So I'm just taking them away from public view. I'm saying still accession these, still sending these for inclusion into the archives. I just don't want to see them when I go on here and I search for the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Is that clear? I mean, because that is a pretty important, this is a pretty big part of this.
Okay, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So what I would use archive for is if I want to remove it from public viewing, and if it's not kind of a duplicate, why would I want to remove it?
That's up to you.
Okay.
So you might say, well, for whatever reason, maybe it's just, I don't know,
I have an answer for that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
So I had somebody that ended up being moved into a special operations group that we had taken photos of, and they wanted to remove their photos from being publicly viewed. And so they needed any photo of them so that when they went out and did any kind of special operations, if they got captured, they wouldn't be able to identify them. So they searched every internet platform and found any photo that identified them and had us go archive and remove them. So
yeah.
That was one reason that you might want to go archive any photo that would identify them.
Okay.
Yep.
Because then they can't do a public search and identify that person.
Okay.
I do want to show something though, just for everybody's understanding of why I say that nothing on this site is, once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. So I'm in Headquarters Marine Corps archive right now. The same thing that I'm about to show you applies for needs approval as well. So say you have something that's released, it's been vetted and approved for public release by the public affairs officer, but you want to wait until Friday. But your commander wants to see the final version on his desktop, or what have you, or you need to share it with another unit. The Marine Corps does this every year with the birthday video. We have it done several days before we want it released. There's a release plan and they want it released on a certain day. However, there are some people that need it a little bit earlier for various reasons. DVIDS can facilitate that. So once it's under needs approval or archived, because it's released content, it's not unreleased because it's been released. I can click on the thumbnail. I'm going to click right here on the thumbnail, and you're going to see this pop-up come up, and you're going to see a thumbnail, or you're going to see a video. You're going to have a download button, and you are going to have a static link to that piece of content. So if I drop this link, if you guys aren't logged in to DVIDS, you could go ahead and click that and watch that video. It's very useful, but it's also kind of a word of caution to be very careful about what you're putting on DVIDS. So that means that nothing, while it's not public, it is accessible, anybody with that link. I do see a couple of questions in there. Is there a glossary and or a basic user guide on the site? We do have, it's pretty messy. It's coming to a head. I was talking to Mike a little bit earlier today about some of the stuff that I'm working on for the Marine Corps, which will probably wind up benefiting all branches. And that is more of a DVIDS 101 course or a DVIDS 100. There is a training link here. There are some user documents and guides along the way in that. it's embarrassingly difficult to navigate because we don't have thumbnails and all of that. So there are some basic user guides and videos in there, but it's not very well organized. So you're probably going to be, you know, kind of clicking around for a little bit. That's, if you do have a specific question or a specific thing, I highly recommend just shoot me a quick email. I'm pretty quick to respond on those, and I'll help you as best as I can. And then the other question I see here is, when it comes to downloading closed captioning video in order to be 508 compliant, how reliable is the CC feature? Up until about 2 weeks ago, the CC feature was actually a human going in there and typing it in and doing the transcriptions. We do provide 2 different types of closed captioning. We do live closed captioning, and we do after the fact. So any piece of video that's uploaded, I believe, except for B-roll, is closed captioned. It used to be a 24-hour turnaround to provide the transcript and the closed captioning data. It is now minutes in most cases, because we now use the Amazon cloud. You have to be logged in, so you can't see this. You can't have the option to download any video, but what you'll see here is download the closed captioning file, which is, when you turn it on, you can read it at the bottom of the page. That's what generates that. Or I can just go ahead and click download transcript. So I have not seen this before. I don't know if you guys can see my text file. Can you guys see that? Can anybody see my little text box that opened up?
No, I can't.
Okay, that means that's just probably not being shared. So I'm going to copy. I don't know if I can copy and paste that in there or not. Let's see, copy, type message here. Is that enough to paste in there? That's not going to let me, it's too much. But when you go in there, you just, what it'll do is it'll open up a text box inside like a notepad or something like that. So it's pretty accurate. It's all automated. It's all artificial intelligence. The trade-off is now we're finding, even no matter what the length of the video is, it's roughly a 3-minute turnaround instead of 24 hours. Live closed captioning is done by a live closed captioner, and that, you know, that's about as consistent as you can get with live closed captioning. You're not going to you're not going to get it to be as pretty. This version of right here, after the fact, if it's not live, will be pretty accurate. If you do see something, shoot us an email if it's not working right, and we can hopefully tweak the system. We found out the hard way that sometimes things sound like curse words that aren't curse words, and that made it on there. But we now have a cussing filter, so that should be good. All right, so I think it does not require additional apps, so we're good on that. The next thing I want to show is it's in needs approval, published and archived if I need to make changes to the metadata. So when we uploaded, we showed how you can edit the metadata. Now, if say we need to make a change, there's this little pencil icon right here, and we can go in and we can do a couple things. I can change, as you can see, this is all the metadata fields that we saw on upload. And we can go in and make happies to glads, and we can change things based off of our needs that may have changed. Again, there's going to be a couple things that I just kind of want you to ignore and not worry too much about at this point in time. And that includes the extended metadata. Don't worry about priority of effort. Don't worry so much about sharing right now. But those are a couple things. The other ones in here are going to be fairly useful for you. So we found that. I can go in here. Remember, we talked about tags. I can go in and add tags. Like I can add Montford Point Marines if I wanted to. I can do different things within that. This is going to become incredibly important in about 3 minutes as to why why being able to add tags on any piece of content on the platform is important. Controlled vocabulary, again, I can go in and do my F16 or whatever you have on the back end here, and I can add in all of that. This is if you have, we're not going to cover sharing today, but then I can go ahead and I can change the thumbnail by clicking here. I can pick a frame, any frame within the story. I can go ahead and hit select thumbnail frame. And then I can click that and I can change it to whatever frame I want in here. You cannot do it like you can with YouTube, unfortunately. You can't upload a really cool JPEG at this point and have that as the thumbnail, but you can do it this way. So that's how you modify things. Then you go back to asset details and click save. So that's a pretty sweet little trick. Another thing is, if you want, you can see like revision history. You can see that anything that has been changed will be red and green, added and removed, so you can know who's messing with your stuff. And then you have your archive tab, and then you can see how this thing is viewed publicly. Going into public views, I can see what the public is going to see. This little plus sign, I can do bulk actions. And this is going to, and I said about tags are going to be interesting in about 3 minutes. We're going to go into features and feature pages and why they're a really, really cool tool. So we go back to this big old search thing right here, and we're overwhelmed, right? I can go in and filter content, but I really don't want to wade through 3 million photos. I just kind of want to look for what I'm looking for related to a particular subject. That's where feature pages come in. These are basically just really sweet search results pages that you as a public affairs community can really serve up and identify the best content around a different type of thing. So these are sorted by the date, the most recent updating. So the pages that have had the most, that have been touched and updated the most recently will be here. You can see different events and things like that. The way you request a feature page is through the request support tab. Hey, we need help setting up a feature page for this. This is what we want it to say. This is our title, and this is our description. And then you can go in and we can create, you can give us a logo, and then we will create a feature page for you. Notice how up in the URL, how really sweet and short that URL is. DVIDSHub.net/feature/hurricane edit. Like it's shareable. You can drop that into press releases and say, hey, for the latest information about this exercise or this natural disaster or this response or this initiative, go here. Then your media or whoever else you're sending out that press release to can go there, and they can click the subscribe button and they can subscribe to updates. As soon as I do that, now, every time that you update your page, I'm going to get an email saying, hey, just uploaded some really good content. Now, what this does, and this allows you to do, is look, here's the best content. We may have 1,000 photos, but here's the 11, or here's the 130 that are the best. And you can go ahead and just update this. The way this is updated is through tags. Tags drive feature pages, meaning every one of these pieces of content that we look here has a tag, which would probably be this one right here, that actually allows that content to be populated on that feature page. You used to be able to update tags on the front page, and anybody could add a tag on a piece of content on DVIDS, whether or not they were logged in or not. We have removed that capability. Only public affairs and combat camera people that have permission to be on the back end can go in and add a tag. You will see a literal tag icon for content that doesn't belong to your unit, but you can go in and it'll give you the tags tab that I showed you under edit, and you can go in and add the tag that populates that feature page. The other way you can do it is I can go ahead and I can select all of these. I can go to bulk action and assign to feature. Basically what this is just a fancy way of mass tagging an item. That's what this is doing. So, right, if there was a rifle qualification feature page, and that was the tag, it would pop up right over here and I could assign all of that content to that page. That is a pretty powerful little tool. Other things I can do though with that little checkbox while we're here, I can archive the assets and then media galleries and priority of effort. We're not really going to go over those today because we are running a little short on time. We've been on here for about an hour. So as you can see, there's just so much that you can do and along this line. So just to quickly recap, we've kind of talked about how to search content on the front end. We've talked about how do you get help from DVIDS. We've talked about uploading content and then how to move it through a workflow, whether or not you want to be in needs approval, whether people can see it on the public facing side of the site or whether you can archive it. The one last thing I think I want to show you before I kind of put an end to the training today or open up for questions just to kind of go through some specific things that you guys may have is how to connect a photo to a news article after the fact. So because this will cover a couple concepts and it'll kind of reveal how the DVIDS brain thinks. So I have this article here, Marine Corps observes Asian American History Month. I go into edit, I click that little pencil icon again, and then all the way over here, instead of tag or instead of choose thumbnail, I have associated media. Associated media basically says that I want to connect a photo, whether it's this photo or another one, I want to connect it to this particular news story. There's a couple ways I can do that. I can search for Asian American History Month and I can hit enter and I can do that and it's going to pull back some results. Or what I can do is I can call a specific ID. And this is kind of touching on another quick feature. DVIDS has its own unique IDs. Everybody knows about the VIRN, which is a DoD record. And everybody's required to use those for all accessionable products. But DVIDS has an internal ID, as you can see right here in image info. This is a 6 or 7 digit number. This could also say video ID, news ID, audio ID. There's different ones based off of the category, but you're going to want to copy this. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy that particular number. The other place that if you don't want to scroll all the way down and you like looking for things in URLs, I can just pop right up into my URL right up in here. And you can see that that same number is a part of the image URL. I can go ahead and I can grab it right from there. Either way, doesn't matter. It's the same thing. What I can do is go back into my little news control. I'm under unit media control, associated media for that news story. And I can paste that number right in there and I can hit enter. So what's going to happen is in just a couple seconds, this little thumbnail is going to pop up and it's going to show that image that we had just right over here. Sometimes it shows up faster than others. But what it's going to allow you to do is go ahead, click the little checkbox, connect selected assets. What that's going to do is it's going to tie this photo to this news story. Doesn't remove it from this page. You can see there's already an associated news story with it. It's just going to add another one right below. So basically on that news story, you'll have this picture when it loads up, just populating right there. If you say, remember, like you uploaded 15 photos in a news article in a batch, remember that batch is that thing that we talked about at the beginning, they would all be listed here and you could choose which ones. Maybe you forgot to add one while you were, or you forgot to add in Connect Media while you were copying and pasting your news story. You can come back into here and do it right from there. Okay. So there's a couple other things that we can go over at a different training time, but in the interest of time, the analytical portion, the 360 reports, it's a lot more. And I don't think we have the time to go over that necessarily today, but I do want to pause and see if anybody has any direct questions at this time. Okay. So again, 360 reports. Yeah. So yeah, please reach out to me. I just dropped my email address in there. If you guys will have me back, I'd go over that. I mean, I can probably give you a quick class in about 30 minutes, or we could, we could really go into a deep dive in another hour. But yeah, if you want to have me back, or if you want to do it offline, one-on-one, happy to do that either way. That basically is the next part. It shows you how we monitor and measure where your content has gone. And you can generate some reports based off of that. So yeah, with that, Mike, is there any comments or any final thoughts from the audience?
I will tell you, the 360 reports. I mean, I definitely think this was really awesome training, and I think we probably should maybe give a part 2 a go. And I'd love to see in the chat if you guys can go ahead and leave some comments in there if you're interested in going deeper into this thing. I think this is well worth it.
Well, excellent. Well, I'm glad that I hopefully provided some stuff. Yeah, it seems like vote for 360. Okay, yeah, I just we'd be here all day and be interest of everybody's time. So let's get that on the calendar. Happy to jump back on this and really do a deep dive into this. I think there's the meat and potatoes of the back end of the site is really in our analytics and there's just so much into this and it's nuanced. But I would say before that, if you can spend some time just really playing around with how tags work, learning about feature page, just kind of playing with the site. I think that's really beneficial, and it'll make some of the terminology and things that I'll be using make a little bit more sense here on this. So and yeah, if you need any one-on-one training or any additional conversations or offline questions, my email, and then we can either connect via phone or we can chat via email. And happy to jump on a Zoom or a Google Meet. Yeah, just easy day. So I really do appreciate everybody's time and all the great questions, and sounds like you all got something out of it based off of the chat there. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks.
Mike, anything else from you, or are we good to sign off here?
All right, sorry about that. I'm having audio issues, but
No worries.
yeah, I tried to get on the other computer that I have this thing rolling on. No, really appreciate your time today. Super informative. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have to roll through the recording a couple of times. So really impressed. Say hello to your dog.
Yep, that's 1 or 2. I don't know where the other one is. He's probably outside barking at something. So.
Very good.
All
Well,
right.
I appreciate everybody else being here today. Master Sergeant Simplify, thank you so much. And we have to do this again sometime.
All
was
right,
great.
sounds good. Simplify. Take care, everyone.